I know I have a lot of people out here tonight that are all excited about the hope and change. I can just tell by your faces. What I've had to do for 30 years, which is getting kind of old, my patients all come in with lots of blood work and lots of tests. And they make a lot of money on people's blood work and tests, and they never read them. I have to decipher the test for them. I'm gonna make sure this is on. So I'm gonna end up giving a once-over on blood chemistry, because it's amazing. If you run all these tests, I would just appreciate if they'd read them. I'm not sure they actually know how to read them, because the stuff that's presented to me is as if they weren't even, just ridiculous. Dr. Jeff has got a great lecture coming up in January 30th, Fighting Fatigue in a World of Stress. I think as next year unfolds, many people are going to be more stressed than they were this year. That's for sure. Reserve seating. That is the website that Kelly put together. You want to write that down, because something's been changed that I think you'll find interesting with the future. Standard Process donated these little boxes for the month of December, if any orders that you do. But actually, I'm up in the 21st century now. My kids put me on YouTube. All my lectures are on YouTube, and Dr. Jeff's also. And you can get it right. You can either Google the name of the title directly, or you can go through the link at the office. So this will be kind of interesting. Getting some interesting hits on some of the lectures. Now, you know what it's like before this next, you know what it's like when you would have the government run your health care? What do you think that would actually be like? I'll give you a recent example of what it's exactly like. You ready? That's a real sign in the window of the FEMA building in New Jersey and New York. Can you actually believe that? They ran because the weather was coming. Said, you're all on your own. You know how much money you spent, the taxpayers, to get this kind of organization? I can't even imagine. This bumper sticker the girls found in the basement, this was Hillary Care. I had a guy that ran a bumper sticker company, and he was in, and he says, what do you think about Hillary wanting to take over health care? And I said to him, when the government runs your health, you'll be as healthy as the government. And he had a light bulb go on over his head, and he said, can I have that for my bumper sticker company? I said, yes, you can. So that was the bumper sticker that was going around the last time the Democrats wanted to take over my health care. Didn't think they'd actually get it in my lifetime, but they came around the second time and hit us again. So this will be an adventure. I don't have health insurance, and I haven't had health insurance. I personally fired the pediatrician when I was 13. I had enough of him in this life I had enough of the shots and the chemicals, and I had enough of being sick all the time. And it didn't take me long to realize this guy's making me sicker. Now, I find that amazing, as never knowing this was going to be my career, absolutely not a clue that I was going to do this for a living. But my dad's biggest concern was, why would you want to do that? It's free. I said, I don't give a blank that it's free. I said, I'm not going to keep going there. Every time I go there, I get sick, my arm swells up, I feel lousy. And he didn't register to my dad because this was a big deal because Ford was paying for it. So being forced to buy insurance for a system that I want nothing to do with, I don't force them to take vitamins, do I? I don't take them to see a chiropractor. They want me to be forced to cover something that I really am not interested in. Just kind of an interesting way of looking at it. No single person, including the President of the United States, should ever be given the power to make a medical decision for potentially millions of Americans. Freedom over one's physical person is the most basic freedom of all, and people in a free society should be sovereign over their own bodies. When we give government the power to make medical decisions for us, we in essence accept the state owns our bodies. A wonderful Ron Paul statement. To show you how bankrupt our system really is. How many years do you think Jerry Lewis was doing that telethon? How much money do you think he really raised in his 40 years? I would think $1 billion. $1 billion. He humiliated people to giving money. He coerced people into giving money, etc., correct? Well, Jerry Lewis was outed recently of the telethon. In the USA Today had a big article that said the unexplained absence of Jerry Lewis. The unexplained absence of Jerry Lewis at the telethon. It was a big mystery. Do you know why Jerry Lewis wasn't at the telethon? Because he found out that muscular dystrophy was a mineral deficiency. And he took all the literature about muscular dystrophy in the animal industry to the Muscular Dystrophy Association and said, look, I have found the cure. It's a selenium deficiency. He laid all the literature down and they fired him. He was fired. Joel Wallach was the vet that presented him with all the information. This is what's going on behind the scenes. I was at a restaurant a few years back and they wanted me to buy a Shamrock for muscular dystrophy. And I said, no, but why not? Because I don't believe in it. And they said, it's all over the place. I said, I know it is. I said, I just don't believe in it. They said, why? I said, do you have any pets? And they said, no. I said, well, you got to talk to a vet and you'd understand. I came back that day. That's how Providence can work. And I had a 62-year-old retired vet as one of my new patients. And I walked in the room, said, have you heard any of my stuff before? No. Seen any of my DVDs or lectures? Nope. I said, I got to ask you a question. I brought the staff in the room and I asked, do you have muscular dystrophy in animals? And he laughed. He said, heck no. And I said, well, why not? He said, we cured that 70 years ago. I said, well, how'd you cure it? He said, we put minerals in their food and it disappeared. Before he dies, I'm sure he wants to cleanse some of his past. There's a new type of flu. I want you to understand there's a new type of flu shot on CNN. I want you to catch the virus strains included in the new vaccine are grown in animal cells of mammalian origin instead of in eggs. You can talk about mercury forever. I don't want animal cells in my bloodstream. Because when I put animal cells in my bloodstream, my body's going to start that autoimmune process going. So they can tell me that I have lupus, or I have MS, or I have rheumatoid arthritis, or there's a million names. Just, I got to tell you something. This is kind of a touchy subject. I'm going to change this story around a little bit because this just happened. I have this young man. He's about 18 years old. Mom is an OBGYN and dad is a surgeon. So Mom's been bringing her son in, and I was kind of interested to meet this surgeon. I'm not even going to say what kind of surgeon he is because this story is not going to be hard to find. So finally, 2 Mondays ago, Dad was in. Dad brought the kid in. I got a chance to meet him. So I walked in. I tried to make conversation while I was adjusting his son. And I said, how are you enjoying, what you do? He said, I really like it a whole lot. I looked at him. How long have you been doing this? I've been doing this for probably about, 22 years right now. I looked at him. Kelly was in the room with me. I looked at Kelly. I looked back at him, and I said, do you have Bell's palsy? Yes, I do. I got it right after my flu shot. I said, well, how long ago was that? 3 years ago. And I looked at Kelly, and I looked at the kid, and I looked at him. I looked back at Kelly. I looked at the kid. I looked back at him. And I'm like, I was speechless. I'm not going to get that one again, that's for sure. And I walked out of the room, and Kelly says, could you help him? No, that was 3 years ago. His face is paralyzed. I said, this is mean. Maybe if you get one on the other arm, you'll talk like this, and then you'll be right in the middle. I said to her, I would quit. I couldn't go in there and talk to patients like this. I was completely shocked. I hope, if he happens to bring in his son again and sees this in the waiting room, he will give me a pass on this. Unbelievable. You can argue the mercury all day. I don't want animal cells in my body. I could convince a kindergarten class not to put foreign viruses in my body. Now, the Journal of Virology said the flu shot hampers the part of your immune system that fights viruses. Why would it not say something like that? It affects your T cells. Where does your T cells come from? Your thymus. Now, your thymus, I think we have on the list of pills today, we're going to give, that's in the list of presents. I took 3 of those this morning, and I'm going to tell you, the people that are the most susceptible to this are the ones without their tonsils. The ones that have had their tonsils taken out get a lot more infections that would involve their T cells. I feel terrible for my hospital employees that are having their jobs held over their head about a flu shot. The literature is so weak on flu shots helping anybody. You folks are watching your country being taken over. Republicans and Democrats have thrown all of you under the bus. Financially, morally, militarily, economically, your homes, your businesses. The kind of power that these people have, you have to go through life with me and my kids because we push back all the time. You got to come to the airport with us. We have a blast at the airport. We just have a blast. My kids have some memorable, this isn't the spot for it, but we've had some memorable times being pulled over by the police. My kids will never forget that. They will remember some of these discussions as long as they live. I have said the rottenest things to them and got off with a warning. I remember one guy that I was driving home down one of the back streets, and I went 30 miles an hour in a 25. 5 over. And you'd think the guy came up with the glasses and the brush cut, and man, he had a big arrest going. This was going to be a big event to get me for 5 over. And I said, stop. And the kids were in the car. I said, what? I said, stop. He said, what do you mean, stop? I said, you see these kids? Yeah. I said, they don't like you. He said, what do you mean they don't like me? I said, well, they don't like you. They said, well, why? I said, our whole life. Quick, it's the cops. Duck, put your seatbelt on, hide. Here they come. Everybody look, hit the dirt. I said, it's not help. It's always duck and run. I said, let me tell you something. This was the good old Clinton days. I said, do me a favor, and I am not a Republican. I've had it with all of them. I said, get all the boys together. I said, I want you to go to Washington, and I want you to surround the White House. And when they come out, I want you to arrest them one by one, because that's where the crime's taking place. It's in Washington. Republicans and Democrats are taking us for a ride. And he was completely mortified. He didn't know what to say. He went back to the car, trying to process all this, and came back and gave me a warning. He didn't even know what to say. That was in the wonderful town of Novi. Before, the judge was my patient. Now the judge is my patient. That wasn't part of the program. That's one of many adventures that the children have enjoyed. More of losing our freedoms. Now, I can't make this up. Do I have any chemists or physics in the I know I have one physicist in the room. Do I have a chemist in the room? Okay. Chemist and physics, good. Maybe, well, see if you agree with this clip.
Mercury-containing vaccines may have on kids.
A life-saving device wins over-the-counter approval by the FDA.
And sick of your glasses and contact lenses? A new corrective eye surgery is approved today. Here's tonight's medical headlines with Medical Watch reporter Seema Mather.
Mercury-containing vaccines may help, not harm kids, according to 2 new studies in the journal Pediatrics. There have been widespread concerns that mercury-based preservatives in vaccines might impair the neurological development of children. These new studies suggest that the opposite, that the preservatives may actually be associated with improved behavior and mental performance.
You can tell our kids are really leading the world right now, aren't they? So mercury is going to actually help your children's brain. That's the American Academy of Pediatrics. You know, Larry, Moe, and Curly got together and said, we're going to help. I can't even make this stuff up. Can't make this stuff up. Absolutely unbelievable. Now, next is a special story for an old patient. This young man has been a patient of mine for 30 years. And he decided this is one of our Special Olympic sure-footed race walking Olympians. He represented the United States, and he's got feet like a gazelle. He's sure-footed, he is steady on his feet. And Kelly, let's just roll the video.
A climber is recovering in the hospital after falling hundreds of feet on Mount Hood, but avoiding life-threatening injuries.
This happened yesterday. It was a Michigan guy, Gary Morgan. He was climbing Mount Hood for the first time when he fell. And KOIN Local 6 reporter Brent Weisberg joins us live outside Legacy Emmanuel. Brent, do you have any updates on his condition?
Good morning, Alexis and Chad. The hospital staff here at Legacy Emmanuel tells me that Gary Morgan has been upgraded to fair condition, so he is improving from this fall. The sheriff's office says that he fell anywhere from 300 to 600 feet. Take a look at some of the video that we shot yesterday up on the mountain. Officials say that he fell anywhere from 300 to 600 feet. According to some of the climbers who were on Mount Hood yesterday, they say Gary Morgan was not as prepared as he could have been. One climber told us that Morgan did not have the right boots on and did not have an ice axe and was wearing the wrong helmet. Now, an ice axe can oftentimes stop a falling climber. Search and rescue crews were dispatched around 9:30 yesterday morning. The fall happened near the Hogsback Ridge.
I just knew it was going to be bad because he was going fast, and he kind of went head first, and then he was able to kind of turn around, and then he landed into the crevasse feet first, and he hit hard.
Several members from Portland Mountain Rescue were already on the mountain when Morgan fell yesterday. They were there for a memorial for Mark Cartier, who lost his life on Mount Hood in a fall in that same general area last week. The group was there to spread his ashes. Now, the Clackamas County Sheriff's Office says that Gary Morgan had flown in from Michigan early yesterday morning and then climbed Mount Hood. It was his first attempt, and again, he fell 300 to 600 feet. He remains in fair condition here at Legacy Emmanuel Hospital. Reporting for you live this morning, I'm Brent Weisberg, KOIN Local 6.
Certainly glad to hear he's improving, Brent. Thank you.
Gary.
I never even saw that video.
Gary's been a patient for 30 years, and they said he went 500 feet down Mount Hood, head first, and they were spreading the ashes of the guy that just did that the week before, and he went racing by them. Any comments you'd like?
Well, not everything they said there was true. It was my second time climbing. I tried climbing the thing a year ago in somewhat of a questionable weather. See, me and another guy were climbing. I was once again about 100 feet from the top. Said, I'm not going to make it today. I headed down. He made it up to the top. So I said I was going to make it this year. Well, that didn't happen this year either. But I will try to get. And I did have crampons on, which are these steel spikes. One of them slipped. I did not have an ice axe. I figured I didn't need one. That was my fault.
And he had a bicycle helmet on.
And the bicycle helmet saved me. I'm telling you, you got those mountain hats. They're shaped like your head. They're hard as a rock. I don't like it. I wore a bicycle helmet. That saved my life. I can tell you that right now. The mountain hat. It didn't save the other guy who dropped 1,000 feet. I'm still here. So, it is what it is. And people said, were you climbing by myself? Yes, I was, but there's about 30 other people on the mountain there. Some guys are up there spreading the ashes of the guy who died. And I talked to his daughter just before I made the climb. And like I said to him, well, at least he died doing what he loved doing. Too bad he didn't join the club, but that's how life goes. And I tell people, well, God wouldn't let me leave early, so now I got to stick around for the second coming.
Now, let me ask you, when I called him, he was deliriously out of it on medication. And what was your hospital experience like?
Oh, it was hell. It was 10 times worse than falling down the mountain. I wish they'd just left me up there. I could have crawled down the mountain and taken care of myself. They forced me to stay there, but when I first got there, all I really had wrong with me was a dislocated hip. They popped my hip back in, and I had 7 broken vertebrae that they couldn't do anything about.
I had to take care of that.
Yeah, but other than that, there was nothing they could do with that. So anyway, and they kept giving me this Oxycontin crap. And they forced me to take it, and I wanted to leave after 24 hours. They would not let me leave. I wanted to leave after 48 hours. They brought in security guards to make me stay. They didn't help me one bit. When you go in the hospital, you lose all your legal rights. You know what the bill was for 3 days of that hospital? You're gonna love it. The only thing they did was pop my hip in. That's the only thing they did for me. $31,000. This is what they're doing. It's a joke. And he's the one who fixed me.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you, Gary. Anybody see the Tigers? When I watched this, and I watched, this is a great guy for Detroit, okay? He's a great guy. And to watch him, I'm sitting there in my chair, and he stumbles up to the platform with Dabrowski holding one side, Leland holding the other side, and I looked at him. I think he thought he was at a Red Wings game. I don't think he even knew he was at the Tigers game. And people said, what do you think of Illich? I said, I'd fire his doctors. I will guarantee you the 3 things I know he's taken. You want to know what this is? When you know it to look like that? He gets flu shots every year. He's on Lipitor, and he's on acid-blocking medication. They sucked the fat out of his body, filled him full of mercury, and killed his stomach. I will guarantee you that's what they did. And I was amazed, and this is what I've seen lots of rich patients like. The poor people don't look like this because they can't afford it. The rich people look like this because they can. And it's just a crime scene what I've seen them do to the patients that can afford it. I can tell where you're retired from. I can tell what you did for a living. I can tell how much money you make because you're on 8 medications at 72. You're on 10 medications at 81. That's not the poor people. I want to show you how important chiropractic can be because it's really been reduced to car accidents and slip and falls. It had nothing to do with that kind of history. Absolutely nothing to do. It had to do with people that were sick. It had to do with people that had nothing to do with pain. I want to show you something. I've had 2 of these in the last couple months. Last time Rachel was in here, it was twice as bad as this. And then we adjusted her atlas, and it stopped. How many months ago was that, Mom?
May, June, July, August. 3-4 months.
3-4 months ago. This was their second visit. She was twice as bad as this the first visit. Now, I'm not remembering that we talked about how that atlas can slide on the brainstem. You're a celebrity now. It's the brainstem gets pinched right underneath the skull. Good. There's 3 moves to this. That's 2. All right. If you notice, it's already started to settle down. It took 3 moves to get this brainstem unpinched. This is the 3rd one. Easy here. I'll make her sure she's in there. Good. Good. Got it. Relax. Now you can stop that. I had our doctors are watching these. Now, Mom, come on over here. You're in. How many psychiatrists or psychologists?
3. Well, we had 2 psychiatrists.
2 psychiatrists.
And 3 neurologists told us that.
3 neurologists.
And I'm a counselor.
Counselor.
Told her that it was in her head. She couldn't handle stress.
She'd been in the emergency room.
2 emergency rooms. 3. Whatever, somewhere in there.
3 emergency rooms. She's been on a Valium IV, and she was basically told she was nuts. After the 1 atlas adjustment, this stops dead, and her life goes on like it was before. The doctors don't want to address that this was a mechanical problem, not. Did your mom bring in those MRIs? She had. I have all these MRIs sitting in front of me that said her cervical spine's perfect. And I walked in, looked at her, I said, your neck's dislocated. And they said, no, her cervical spine's perfect. I said, no, her neck's dislocated. Her brainstem's pinched. So how many psychiatrists? 2. A counselor. 3 emergency rooms. This, and everybody swore up and down this had nothing to do. How long ago did you fall on your head? She fell 1.5 years ago on her head, and she collapsed in Texas at a band. You were on a parade in Texas, correct? And she collapsed, went to the emergency room on a Valium IV. I want to tell you something. Here's your little war story. I got a number of wonderful dentists right now. Oh, it's not you. I have a real crabby old dentist. She knows who I'm talking to. This guy comes in, he's had carpal tunnel surgery. And he wakes up, his hand's numb. He's 80 years old. So his daughter drags him to see me, and I walk in. This guy's a crabby old guy. I said, "That's your neck. Your disc, your C5, C6 disc is crushed." He said, "My neck doesn't hurt." I could see what a snot he was, so I said, "You shag the teeth, I'll fix the hand." So I adjusted his neck 3 times. All this numbness went away. Came in to get his x-rays and went back to the orthopedic surgeon and told him, "You malpracticed on my hand. I'm a dentist." C5, C6 takes out the hand. One of the top Detroit Lions had a bad shoulder. The Lions played with it for a year. A crushed C3, C4 disc, a serious adjustment, shoulder pain, 3-4 runs the shoulder. A famous Detroit goalie who's now retired that lives around here because of a groin injury after in retirement, adjusting L1, L2, the lumbar. On a Monday and Thursday, the groin pain that he retired from after surgery stopped. L1, L2 controls the groin. L2, L3 controls the hip. L3, L4 controls the knees. I could take you through each segment. Not one of these people talked about back pain. That injury was 1.5 years ago, and her neck didn't hurt. But she fell on her neck, and her neck was dislocated. I have many patients that are grossly misaligned that don't hurt here, they hurt in the periphery. Thank you, Rachel, and I see how easy that was. Right after my GMO lecture, I gotta move along. Right after my GMO lecture, the U.S. agreed to clean up Agent Orange in Vietnam. It's been 40 years. Because they're all full of birth defects, and they got all kinds of cancers, and they got genetic problems, and they got infertility. It's just a mess. They've been complaining for 40 years. You got to get this filth out of our country. So they finally agreed to clean it up, and guess where they're going to put it? In your food. So the EPA approved Agent Orange pesticide for genetically modified food. So you get to enjoy the beauty of eating Agent Orange. Charlotte, I see a protest coming. I see a protest coming. The Raging Grannies are here, and don't cross the Raging Grannies because they will protest you. So you're going to have Agent Orange in our food now, and EPA looked over all the literature and says, we're good to go. There's nothing wrong with this. It's great. Lymphoma follows that like a pull toy. The Lancet, remember the title of what this lecture was? I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to tell you what the literature says. This is what the literature says. The Lancet, November 12, 2011, in a Swedish mammography study went after 650,000 women that had breast cancer. 650,000 women. They found that most of them just disappeared after 6 years. They didn't do anything. You know what stuff that you've been sold? They were gone. Now, all my nurses out there, they're all fired up, and now I can see the smoke coming out of their ears because they really bought the program. The old doctors really haven't. But that's the Lancet. That's one of the most prestigious journals. About 6 years. Most of them just spontaneously disappeared. Did you ever hear that in the literature before? This is a good one. This is how sad it is right now. This is sad. This is really sad. There's a big Harvard study that came out that said fluoride is ruining your children's IQs. How many people have been to a restaurant or to a fast food place and watched what it was like to try to get change today? Can change be an adventure? Change can be a huge adventure. I've had fun getting change. I like to put a couple extra pennies down just to get them all worked up. Give them a nickel or something, an extra dime or something. You can just have a good old time watching them. It's like landing the space shuttle. So, this disturbed everybody. It's ruining your children's brains. Now, it gets even better. Intense industry pressure to continue mass medicating Americans with fluoride chemicals via public water has influenced Harvard University researchers to backtrack. So they went out and said 2 months later, it only ruins the IQ of people outside the United States. Everybody's like, good. I thought it was going to mess my brain up. Go back to sleep. Keep moving, man. There's nothing to see here. Just keep moving. You can't make this stuff up. This is what my day is like every single day. Is that on the list here? No. This is, I spray my mouth with this hydrogen peroxide. I spray what's left of my teeth. I brush my teeth with that. That's it. This will whiten up your teeth. It's, I don't know. I'm not that smart to begin with. I'm not going to mess with any more than I have to. Sleeping pills, the literature. This is a huge article in the British Medical Journal. 4.6 times the death rate within 2.5 years. Benzodiazepines, these are your Ambiens, all your sleeping pills. If you have trouble, now I'm going to show you what I do, but it was amazing. And the death rate was all kinds of different. It didn't really make any sense why the death rate was so extreme. This is the closest. This isn't Xanax. This is the closest. I got a hockey game tomorrow, Friday, and Sunday. I got 3 games in the next 4 days. When I get home, as soon as I get off the ice and take my top stuff off, I take 3 of those. This is the closest thing to Xanax that's natural. It's not Xanax. I take 3 of those because that crosses the blood-brain barrier. That's the neurotransmitter you're after, and not everything crosses that barrier easily. This does. And that's the closest thing to Valium in the literature. I take 3 of each of those, and I got to settle down because I got to get to sleep because I want to come back and talk about fluoride and Lipitor all day. And I don't want to do that when I'm tired. I'm crabby enough when I'm feeling good. After all this literature comes out, they're finding out that right now we're up to 300 retractions a year on the medical literature on stuff that they told you was good that wasn't. We're up to about 300 a year now and climbing. I chew gum when I play hockey. I chew double bubble gum because it's the only one left that doesn't have any NutraSweet in it. Aspartame is a multi-potential cancer agent, even at doses well below the currently acceptable daily intake. Now at lunch, I might get a pop and I'll sip it. Think this much, that much, something like that. Sometimes a root beer, sometimes an orange, sometimes a lemonade. They slip me diet stuff so often because everybody orders it. Trying to get a regular pop is about impossible. And it's that funny taste, and then I get to argue with them. Is this diet? No, they're so used to pushing the diet handle, they're poisoning me with it. I do not, my tongue cannot stand NutraSweet. Everything that I'm using today is a journal. This is what the doctors learned from. Now, this was a real mess, these medications for diabetes. You want to try to get your doctor to use that one. Metformin works good. It's well tolerated. That's the one you want. You want to avoid these other ones. I got all kinds of people on things, and they dramatically increase the risk of death. You will not have to worry about your diabetes because you're going to croak. If you take metformin, everybody, how many people are over 60 in this crowd? Raise your hand. Man, you guys are old. You guys are old. And Gary is one sturdy boy to take that header down that mountain. And we're all fortunate that he was going head first because he could have hurt something if he was going the other way. If you're taking every one of you over 60 should try to take 1 a day Dissolve it under your tongue. We have a bunch of those we're giving out. Right? We have a bunch of those we're giving out. Is it still on the list? Okay. Dissolve this under your tongue. A B12 deficiency looks exactly like Alzheimer's. It's exactly the same. Fructose. I have lots of hypertensive patients. Stop eating sugar. Stop eating sugar. High fructose corn syrup. It's going to aggravate. This is more for the blood chemistry lecture. Spot the sugar people with certain markers on their blood chemistry. This is a special one. This is a special one. How many people in this crowd are between 48 and 58? Raise your hand. I would be in that group. To this day, Coca-Cola imports coca leaves. They import 100 metric tons of coca leaves a year. 100 metric tons. Now, the Jones-Miller Act in 1922 banned cocaine imports in the United States, but Coca-Cola was granted an exception. 100 metric tons by this one company. Let's see if I got that company. This is secret stuff, the Stepan Company. There's been a puzzle, where does all this cocaine go? I think some of you people in the 70s remember where it went. I might have known where a little bit went. But where this cocaine goes is a big mystery. What do you do with tons and tons and tons of cocaine that you process out of those leaves? Nobody knows. It's a mystery. You got to learn, what were you people told about the sun in your whole life? Stay out of the sun. How many people, you got to raise your hand, how many people's doctors told them to stay out of the sun? Your nurses, your doctors, you got to avoid the sun. Well, a consistently strong relationship with high sun intake for all those cancers. I know somebody with every one of those cancers after 32 years in practice. I can name Jim. I can name Bob's wife. I got a patient right now with kidney cancer, rectal cancer, took out, what's her name, Farrah Fawcett. Pancreatic cancer, that's Chuck Daly, that's Patrick Swayze, that's Michael Landon, that's Don Hewitt. Everybody's got Hodgkin's disease. That's just like a cold right now. Breast cancer, well, there's like a cancer club you join now because everybody's got it. And there's a weak existence for brain, gallbladder. So telling you to stay out of the sun all these years was a catastrophe, an absolute catastrophe. Chemotherapy drugs are linked to severe vitamin D deficiency. There's the number one thing to help you with a number of very specific cancers. Vitamin D. So the drugs for this make this go down, which opens up the door. My darker skinned patients, I had a Puerto Rican friend, 200 over 100 was his blood pressure in Michigan, 140 over 70 was his blood pressure in Puerto Rico. That's the difference of his blood pressure, just by being in the sun. The darker your skin, the more vitamin D you need. I can take my average black patient and drop their blood pressure 40 to 50 points in the sun. One day in the sun, from the morning to the other side. That's why there's full spectrum lights in my office. I took about 6 drops of this. That's 2,000 IUs. I took 6 drops in my shake this morning. It's $49 for the patients. You just ask. You can go to a lab and run this test. This is what your levels want to be. Now, I went and got some blood work. after I baked in the sun all summer. I have never believed that the sun was going to kill me. I never spent a day in the sun and said, you know, that was really a lousy day. I've never felt like that. Common sense, I was really a C student, and it's funny to teach all the valedictorians now, and all the doctors want to learn because they had no common sense. I've dealt with people, it's like dealing with these people, they got in a pile and said, I got a great idea, let's put mercury in the children. I don't even know what it's like. These are these PhD guys that have wasted their entire life in an information age being imbeciles. I don't know what to say. So baking in the sun, 35. That was me. This is my... Now here's an AIDS blood panel. I was curious to see. I would rather rebuild some of your immune systems than have you have this test run. It's about 180 bucks. It's better. I can get a lot of immune rebuilding without that. I went home and took 15 drops of that D. I took 30,000 IUs for 2 days. I took 20,000 units for 3 weeks. Now your doctor's horrified because he's reading literature from 1901. And I want to go back in a week or two, and I'm going to try. My goal is to get it to 80 to 85. And nobody's going to do that in Michigan without pushing it. That's the range for cancers. Lots of cancers seem to stop, and that's in the literature. That's the panel. But that's the panel you'd run on an AIDS patient, the T and B cells. There's your thymus, there's your bone marrow, and there's your IAG. I put IAG, I work on my immune system all the time because that's what I knew the pediatrician was killing by the time I was 13. I'm sick constantly. I'm done with this journey. I'd rather just be sick. A recent patient, I had to stick this one in here. A couple weeks ago, probably 2 weeks ago, this guy got my morning all monkeyed up. It was his second visit. He's 61 years old. And he came in, and he was just kind of tired of the game. Heart stents, and he's Lipitor, it's heart stuff, and radioactive scans, and you know, the game, once they get your claws in you, you're pretty much finished. So they had his claws in him, and he's had all this. So at my age, 55, he started the stent CAT scan blockage game. And the Lipitor, he's not happy doing this. So I sent him for a test. He's a financial analyst, he's a financial advisor, and he takes care of a whole bank of cardiologists. He goes to see the cardiologists that he invests money for. So he comes in about 2 weeks ago, 10 o'clock maybe on a Monday. I was very busy, and this guy was fired up. He was fired up. There's the genetic clotting marker that he had. Normal's 5.6 to 33. I said, this isn't cholesterol. I said, you got a lipoprotein A problem. That's why all your arteries are plugging up, and that's why you're in the middle of this game, and all the stuff they hasn't done anything. You're just waiting for the next one. And he went back to he invests all their money. He went back to them and said, look, he said, they didn't know what it was. He said, you're a cardiologist, you're all cardiologists. What do you mean you don't know what this is? I had no clue what it was. And I let him read my clotting factor board, which is around the corner, and he was fit to be tied. How can they do this and not understand the clotting factors? So there's no drugs for this. So they're just going to take you apart for years, here and there, little stents and bypasses and blockages. So that kind of clogged up my morning. You know what he said? I want x-rays. I want to do your shake in the morning. I want your daily protocol. I want all your stuff. I'm doing everything. I'm done. I'm done. I got everything. I want to do everything, whatever it is. I have to do everything different. And he wanted x-rays to get a reasonable adjustment. His back didn't hurt. He said, I want to be adjusted. I want to do a protein shake with that whole nourishing shake in the morning that you do. And he was pretty fired up. I didn't want to tell him no at this time because he was pretty riled up. As soon as you start, maybe if you guys are lucky, you know, Roundup is so pervasive in our food supply. This is the tumors that the animals are growing from Roundup. We don't have a problem with cancer or tumors in this country. Nobody knows somebody with cancer here, do they? No, that's a rare disease. Russia, when Russia says they don't want your corn, you know why Russia doesn't want our corn? They're done. They're done. You know why they don't want our corn? So I know some of you patients out there are pretty savvy about current events. Lots are lost in space. I'm sorry. Do you know why Russia doesn't want our... It's a real simple reason why. They know it causes breast cancer and organ damage. They said it's okay for you guys. It's not a problem. Russia has a declining population. They can't afford to sterilize their people. They're all getting old and there's no kids. Nobody's having kids in Russia. We have immigrants. We have people flooding the country that'll still reproduce. Russia cannot deal with the infertility that we have. They can't. They'll collapse. So they had a Russian sex day back in 2007. September 12th was a national day of conception. Everybody stay home and do the deed, and if you get pregnant, we'll give you money, a car, a refrigerator, or a prize. You get a prize if you can have children. Now, all you Facebook people, here's the new buzz for the Americans on Facebook, TTC, which means trying to conceive. Do we have a fertility problem in this country? We have a major fertility problem in this country. Major problem. People are being sterilized. What's doing it? The plastics, all the estrogens in the food. And what else? Sodium fluoride. Well, geez, that couldn't be why that's in the water. 2, 4, 6 parts per million fertility issues. This is special. This was just on Bloomberg. How the Chinese seafood, they're feeding, 85% of the seafood comes from China and Vietnam and Asian countries, and they're feeding the seafood crap from pigs, geese, and cattle. So fish feces. So they buy all the poop from the farmers and they dump it in these pens. You know, there was a reason, you know, for some of folks out there know those Levitical laws, which was for all of us. I just had a lady in, an out-of-state lady. No, I think this was a guy. This was a gentleman, wasn't it, Kelly? Yes, it was a gentleman. This guy comes in, he's 32-year-old male, female, male, and to talk about a 32-year-old with memory problems. She lives on seafood. There's her hair analysis. That's a disaster. She'll be, so this is what it's like to be 50. By the time you're my age, you'll be lost in complete space. This is a disaster. There's her mercury level right there. I got patients that age lost in space. Fluoride is calcifying my patients' brains, and I remember, I think I was sitting in Churchill High School, sitting with this tray in my mouth and all this crap running down my throat. I'm sitting there, what is this? And what do you think my dad said? Shut up, it's free. It's got to be good. Just swallow it, let it run down your throat. You know, I'll give you an ice cream if you let them poison you again. And I got some bad news that Prozac is a fluoride-based molecule. Really? Pineal gland calcification, a lot of diseases associated with crystallizing your pineal gland. Moving along, making sure. Parasites are in the pool. You know, dealing with 32 years of parasite patients and having the medical community never find like a one, watching them never catch parasites, ever. How many teachers do I have that have been patients of mine for a length of time? How long does it take you, Janice, to spot the kids with parasites on the full moon? An hour. Watch the full moon, watch all the kids come unwrapped. It's amazing what that can do. All my teachers, you know, my judge, my good buddy, the judge in Novi, he cringes on the full moon, my cops. Everybody knows what the full moon's like. It's the parasite people. I wanted to see at this age if I could get my metabolism to run faster. So I went, first time in my life, had my thyroid panel ran, 1.68. Now, if you want to know what, now I consider it perfect. I'll tell you what kind of iodine I do and that kind of stuff. If I was a 3, I would have treated it. If I was a 4, I would have treated it. So I wanted to see what my metabolism, if I could speed it up a little bit. I need all the energy I can at this age because the public sucks the life out of me. To the bottom of my soul. Who works with the public? Raise your hand. Do they suck the life out of us? Every drop. And the only people that work with the public get it, correct? You deal with your relatives, they don't get it at all. My dad was a salaried Ford guy forever. My office is packed. He comes in, sit down, let's talk, come on. Hey, look at this place. Why? You know, you can't take 3-hour lunches like me? No. If you want to know what the ranges are, that's what my next lecture is going to be on, is blood work. I got to go. These are opposites. This is 50% of the Midwest. These are becoming much more popular, but this is huge. Thyroid problems are huge. And more of them are subclinical than clinical. That's how cheap it is to run a thyroid panel. And the reason I'm sharing this with you, I love to send people to their doctors to have their insurance cover it. This is the stuff you pay cash for. Do you know why I've had to start doing this? You know why? It's real simple. When I send people today, I sent one of my vice chairmen to get a simple blood test. He had to fight off a flu shot. He had to fight off a colonoscopy. He had to fight off Lipitor. He had to fight off a tetanus shot. He had to fight off Viagra. It was like Mr. Haney with his truck. So when you go today, they're going to peddle 16 things to you. You can't get done what you need, and you got to fight. Go in. What's it like to go in with your kids? What's it like to go to the pediatrician with your kids? I've never had my kids in a pediatrician's office. I don't know what that fight's like. I got a family over here that are friends of mine. So she went to get a physical on her kids, and a pediatrician and nurse walks in and says, "Do your parents own guns?" Is that a true story? She's just shaking her head, yes. That's part of the physical. Do you have guns? What does that have to do with it? She got up and walked out. She said, "It was the last time my kids were at a pediatrician for a school physical. Do you have guns?" We have to ask you that. Food sensitivities. These DVDs will be available in 3 or 4 months. I think they'll be online, but I got to move through some of these because of time. Now, all the food, now there's all kinds of new allergies out there because it's genetically modified food. Genetically modified food. So we have all kinds of new allergens. This is the Sensitive 7. I got patients running this, and we'll show you what it's like. This is the measurement, the measurement of it. This is me. I would have bet milk my whole life. Milk and ice cream has been a catastrophe for me. Milk and ice cream. Who doesn't like ice cream? I remember sitting there with chronic strep throat, both ears plugged, sitting in the pediatrician's office waiting for some free poison that's going to make my arm swell up again and again, twice a week for months, allergy shots. I was a baseball player, a little league pitcher. All right, I got a pitch tonight. Give it to me in my left arm. My left arm would swell up the size of my leg. I try to catch the ball and throw. I catch the ball. I'm glad I'm getting this free stuff. And I'm sitting there, and every time I had ice cream, my ears plugged up twice as hard, and my throat got worse. So I remember sitting there asking the pediatrician, do milk and ice cream bother my chronic strep throat? He said, no. Every time I did it, it was instantly I got worse. I mean, it was, how many people have a milk allergy? How easy is that to spot? If your ears are half plugged, they're 100% plugged by the time you're done. Everything gets worse on me, but to him, you can have 3 glasses of milk a day. I'm 6, I'm arguing with this guy. I'm 8. I'm walking out, I look at my mom, he doesn't have a clue what he's doing. Shut up, it's free. It's unbelievable. Eggs, I've never been a big egg fan, and wheat. My son and wife are back there, and this is all the joy that you missed. I should have dragged you to the pediatrician just for some fun. We could have went there and had fun, right, Dill? Oh, yes. Now, Paul will be excited to know we used his sensitive 7. These people can digest nothing. This is what it looks like to digest nothing. So we got to do some digestive tests to determine which direction he's going to have to go. Acne rosacea. This is one of my hockey playing patients. I don't play in this guy's league. All this junk on his face. This is your acne rosacea patients don't digest anything. 61-year-old gal, her egg was over 100, her egg allergy. We have some of these in the gift thing also. We got some, I have one of these. And, and the presents have been divided in half. The other half are going to be in the spring. Did Lou say that? I don't know if you said that or not, but so we got 83 and I think 70 at the spring lecture because there are so many. So she stopped gluten, eggs, and dairy. Gas is better, stomach pain stopped, no food craving, she's losing weight, and her arthritis started to disappear. This lady comes in, she's a wonderful lady. I adjust her once a month. She does little things with her health, and she gets big changes. Kelly, everybody knows Kelly. I have 2 Kellys in the back. This is Kelly W. We should have put your phone number up there so people could call you. That's mean. Isn't that mean? Kelly ran that, eggs, gluten, milk. She lost 15 pounds just stopping her allergies. Didn't have to do anything. Energy improved. We're sitting there today talking to her about this. And she said, my afternoon's better. Food cravings are gone. This is my shake in the morning. This is my greens. These are my vegetables in there. That's about it for me. Give me a big scoop, and we'll call it a day. I like this Power Shake a couple times a day because I don't eat that good, and this plugs a lot of holes in my diet. I take about every pill known to man just to make sure my diet doesn't kill me. There's a new dairy-free SP Complete, which is a nice vegetarian supplement to complement a healthy diet. We have some of those in the package, right? We got those. Kelly shaking her head yes. She gives me the signal. Nitro Greens, I want my sprouts. This is all your sprouts, your cruciferous vegetables. And this is heirloom seeds. This is really good stuff. I mean, there's about what my vegetables look like. I'm sure there's better vegetables, but for me, we're going to call that about a day. And that's all I'm going to do. I'll do a couple scoops of that a day and some different shakes. And if I eat a crummy dinner, I'll make the SP Complete, the Nitro Greens, to keep plugging those holes. because I don't want to get that postcard yet. After hockey, you know, part of my team will have a beer. I'm either the water or the Gatorade. And believe it or not, probably 80% of the time, they hand me the 1-calorie Gatorade. Low-calorie Gatorade. They give me the NutraSweet Gatorade. I don't even want to get into it with these yo-yos. Why do you have to have diet Gatorade? I take just a sip to get my pills down so I can start sleeping, and that's it. I can't believe they even buy this stuff. So give me a water. I'll take a water. But the smartest thing to do as they pass around their pretzels, and they're going to drink a beer or two, it's not a drunk league or nothing, a beer or two, you go home, you put protein, the whey protein, in your muscles after exercise, and you'll get toned from doing it. That's what you want to stick in your muscles first. And you'll get thinner rather than fatter, because your muscles are really hungry after exercise. That's what you want to stick in, instead of getting fatter, thinner. I put this up for a reason. I've had some autistic kids. I encourage these parents to get their kid to eat coconut oil. And this 15, 16-year-old kid wanted to eat the whole tub of coconut oil. He instinctually went after that. And I've encouraged Dad, and the whole family started doing it, watching this kid. Your Alzheimer's patients, your Alzheimer's victims. And the kid, I said, you look, they got a little one for me. I said, you got to go to the store and buy like a gallon drum or something, because all the kid wanted to do was eat coconut oil for his brain. I'm completely burned out on going over your bone density tests. I'm thoroughly 100% burned out on those. I want to make it official. I'm sick of going over your bone density tests. Sick to my stomach. Sick. You've been thoroughly radiated, again, to be told that you don't have the bones of a 25-year-old. The test is designed to fail. You all come in with a bad test because it compares you to peak bone mass, not your age. I'm wasting my time explaining this over and over and over. You have no clue the extent. Can you imagine Gary? Gary, can you imagine your patients? We saw your patients up here. Kelly's been going up to visit Grandpa. We'll have to cover Grandpa. You know what it's like to talk about Lipitor all day, every day? I get to talk about Lipitor every. You want to know what a lifetime of Lipitor looks like? Look at our buddy Mike. This is what the literature really says about the statins. Statin therapy was associated with increasing risk of cancer as age increases. Increases the risk of diabetes. They want to put a warning on the side of your statins. Causes dementia and diabetes. The FDA is demanding that. FDA is demanding to tell you that you're ruining your brain. Statin drugs are increased risk of cancer of the thyroid, esophagus, urinary tract, and lung cancer. That's the Pharmaceutical Journal. Increase the risk of type 2 diabetes. Every diabetic comes in on statins. Every diabetic is on statins. Every single one. Bankable. Statin therapy contributes to low testosterone and small weenies in men with erectile dysfunction. Do you know what happens if I can get all your testosterone way down? They'll steal your country and you won't put up a fight at all. And you haven't. You rolled over like little dogs. Decreased libido. Low testosterone, cholesterol makes testosterone. Statin therapy decreases heart function. Statin therapy, you have to take this because you're having a heart problem. I got this shining at your feet. You see me shining this at your feet? Decreases heart function. 17 trials. That's from the Clinical Cardiology Journal. That's a heart journal, it says that. That wasn't the Inquirer. These are all journals. 17 trials talk about diabetes. More than 4 years use is associated with increased risk of colon, bladder, and lung cancer. That's a cancer journal. Statins increase the risk of prostate cancer. That's a prostate journal. Esophageal cancer, kidney failure, cataract, liver dysfunction, myopathies. That's the British Medical Journal. The use of statins for LDL suppression is associated with the increased risk for cancer. Furthermore, the cardiovascular benefits of low LDL are offset because it increases your risk of cancer. I don't even know what to say anymore. Statins cause your arteries to harden up. That was the Diabetes Journal. It just calcifies your coronary arteries so you can't get any circulation to your heart. So what? Just your heart. Cholesterol is needed for prevent aggression. There's a lot of violent episodes when your statins get too low. A lot of violent episodes. Prevent hemorrhagic stroke, for longevity, to fight cancer, for memory. Kelly's grandpa is, what city is he in? Cadillac. Kelly's grandpa got Alzheimer's and he's in Cadillac. About 2 or 3 months ago, they called her and says, he's been on statins forever. You better come up and, your grandpa's going to die. So they cut him off all his statins and his memory came back. She told me that's why we're doing this lecture today. She said, I go up to visit my grandpa, and she went there to say goodbye. How long ago? A month ago. So he said, well, you're going to die, so we'll just stop your medications, and his memory immediately improved. She told me that doing this slide today, correct? She said, you should have seen the difference in my grandpa when they stopped his medication. I don't even know what to say. My entire day. This is not. Alzheimer's linked to statin drugs. So when you cause a disease, they're going to have there's a war on Alzheimer's they're going to start now. So when they're going to start a war on Alzheimer's, we're going to have more Alzheimer's. We had the war on poverty, everybody's broke. We had the war on terror's everywhere. War on homeless, everybody's homeless. War on cancer, everybody's got cancer. War on drugs, absolutely, war on drugs. Everybody's on drugs. So what's the deal? Just keep moving along, ma'am. Don't stop, just keep moving. I was telling Kelly, which I'll save for another lecture, my wife's pink ribbon on the bottom of her skis, riding up the chairlift with the nurse in breast cancer. They had an interesting conversation on the chairlift. I just put the headphones on and looked straight ahead. Eyes on the hill. That was a funny story. So the FDA wants to put a warning on this. A safety announcement. It's going to make you have Alzheimer's. Dylan, how many of your friends are on Adderall? I live in Northville. We moved to Northville. They're on Concerta, Strattera, or Adderall. Most all of his friends. You watch all these kids now dropping dead. Every 3 days, a kid drops dead now in sports. Every 3 days, a kid drops dead. And all it is speed. It's an amphetamine. How many people went to college in the 70s? This is what you did to study all night. Right? My lab partner, when I went to Schoolcraft's, Dad owned a pharmacy, a Professional Village Pharmacy, Farmington and Schoolcraft. Everybody wanted to work for his dad. And they did. Man, they were all screwed up. They were all screwed up. Now remember, I'm reading the literature because people stick up for stuff. The Department of Radiation Oncology at the UCLA Comprehensive Cancer Center said radiation therapy makes cancers 30 times more malignant. I didn't say that. That's July 1st. This is the Cancer Journal. Makes it much more aggressive. 30 times more likely. It kills half the cells, but the one left behind are 30 times more likely, and they get tough. Check where I'm at. The radiation treatment regresses the total population of cancer cells, generating the false appearance that the treatment's working, but actually increases the ratio of highly malignant to benign cells within that tumor, eventually leading to the treatment-induced death of the patient. Treatment-induced death. I didn't say that. The Department of Radiation Oncology. Dylan, I'm going to have you start my car before we're done today. You get out there and fire up the car. Let's see. I'm going to have, where's Derek Weber? He's going to start it today, I think. Derek, are you out there? Just kidding, Derek. You wanted to answer questions after, didn't you? Okay. Uh-oh, they couldn't possibly tell me it's not true. The CAT scans are a major cause of breast cancer. Do you know what it's like to spend my career? They did a CAT scan on a nosebleed, and they've done it on an earache. They've done it on, if you got the flu. They've done it. My favorite one is growing pains on a kid. Growing pains. They've done CAT scans on everything. If you can hold still and you got the insurance, you're going to get one. But the archives of internal medicine, they wouldn't lie to us. I'm fighting the PSA tests on the men. Many men I have patients that have had their prostates removed. Their libido killed for PSAs of 5, 5.6. Cutoffs 4.4. And they're stuck on this, and boy, when this came out, there's a whole industry built around your PSA test. It's a big one. And they found out that it was pretty useless. The breast cancer screening continues. This is another article published that said after 6 years, on the natural course of events, most of the screen-detected invasive breast cancers spontaneously regressed. Hormone therapy. I have lots of kids today. It's funny to be in practice for 32 years. You know what happens? It's bad, it's good. It's bad, it's good. It's bad, it's good. It's bad, it's good. Now, anybody that's old enough to see how many cycles we've been through. And it's funny, some of the geniuses, and remember, I learned from people a lot smarter than me. And these guys have, when you talk to these people, they'll say things like, we figured that out 30 years ago. We don't need to revisit that. We're moving forward. And to watch the same thing studied, is fluoride good, is fluoride bad, is this good, is this bad? We're on a wheel. We're on this little cycle. You croak off a generation, the next one, you tell them the same thing. They learn, eventually it's a mess, so they die off. The next one comes up. It's this cycle. You just keep seeing this. It's a big wheel. Oral contraceptive use of breast cancer. Now, there's options out there. I'm not a cancer specialist. I have helped people that are seeing a cancer specialist. You have to see somebody licensed to treat cancer. I can help some of these people nutritionally. they've got us all little compartmentalized in little licenses. You don't stick your hand outside that license or you're going to get bit. Watch this clip out of Canada.
Applications and is relatively cheap. But as CTV's medical specialist Avis Favreau explains, redeveloping the drug may not fit into the business plans of the big pharmaceutical companies.
The tumor, the 3D
Dr. Evangelos Mikalakis has given cancer researchers a brand new lead with an old drug, a cheap, inexpensive powder that costs just pennies a dose.
You typically get this eureka kind of feeling, and it's actually the most exciting thing scientists can get.
The drug, called DCA in short, has been used for decades in humans with some rare inherited diseases. When he added it to the water of mice and rats given human cancers, the results surprised him.
And has this big tumor growing in his back. So you can see that even after 3 weeks there is a significant or 70% decrease in tumor size.
It shrunk brain, breast and lung tumors in the animals in a matter of weeks, and the drug had no side effects, confirmed by tests of DCA in humans for other diseases.
This kind of results, to my mind, are as good as it gets.
And it seems to work by reviving the energy-producing components of human cells, allowing the cells to work normally again, triggering cancerous cells to commit suicide. Scientists agree that DCA now needs to be tested quickly in human cancer patients.
This is exactly what we want, a drug that has activity, but has also minimal side effects for patients.
But there's a problem. DCA isn't owned by any pharmaceutical company. There's no patent on it. So on one hand, it could become a very inexpensive new treatment for cancer. On the other, drug companies won't be interested in funding studies for a drug that won't make them a profit.
This is a difficult question because typically, there are market considerations.
So now Dr. Mikalakis has to find someone who will pay for the next round of testing.
We hope that we can attract the interest of universities here in Canada and in the United States.
And he doesn't want to let the medical dream of a cheap, effective anti-cancer drug disappear just because it might not make someone a lot of money. It costs, some say, about $100 million to get a new drug through all the phases of testing onto the market. So it will be interesting to see if this old drug actually gets a new chance at becoming an anti-cancer medication. Lloyd?
Well, Avis, your report tells us that this drug has great promise. So why aren't companies and institutions lining up to get behind it?
Well, first of all, Lloyd, this is the initial report. Secondly, because the drug isn't patented, it's an old drug, if someone invests in researching it, they're not going to make a profit because anyone can make it. So we'll have to see. There are some agencies, public agencies, government agencies that may give it funding, but that's still a question that will have to be answered.
But unless big pharmaceutical companies are behind these things, they may go nowhere, is that it?
Well, actually, Lloyd, I've had 2 other stories where drugs have shown great promise in the preclinical phase, and because they were orphan drugs and no one picked up, nobody could get the patent on it, they've gone nowhere. So I will be keeping an eye on this one.
Thank you very much, Avis.
That's called dichloryl acetate. It's 2 chlorine molecules hooked to acetic acid. There's a website, the DCA site. This costs pennies, and no one's interested in this. And that's on the news in Canada. Let's see, I got my Catalin. We have a bunch of those to pass out. The first vitamin in history. The essential fatty acids. I take 2 of these, Linum B6, in my sack every day for my skin, so I can walk through the crowd. Now, maybe not this crowd is easy, but I could walk through any crowd of people and spot every single Lipitor user because they're blotchy. Red, white, red. You know those people that look like a flashlight would fry their skin? It's all blotchy. That's what they all look like. They're very easy to spot. Minerals, I'm just looking at the table. And remember, this raw chocolate can make anything taste good. I don't talk about this because I try to keep people's expenses down. Raw chocolate, you put this in any of these shakes and it's going to taste like raw chocolate. It tastes real, it's fine, cover up anything. This is the only place you'll find cannabinoids besides marijuana. chocolate is full of cannabinoids. You want them, there's a little cocktail in the office that Kelly has on the wall. I am fussy about genetic and cellular expression. And I'm extremely fussy about detoxification, taking the appropriate, my selenothionine, 1 a day, cheap stuff, 2 if you have a cancer history. It's got a little plaque in the office Kelly's going to put up in the rooms. My bare minimum that I'm every day. I do not want to deal with one of these institutions. I'm absolutely working on correct cellular expression all the time. If you start doing everything now, it takes about 2 to 3 years to tank your cancer. Your ability to get it. Not cancer, it's your keeping from getting cancer. It takes about 2 to 3 years. I've been working on this a long time, so I hope I don't croak in a week. Nothing, because that would look really bad right now. There's so many things about turmeric. Now, I pay lots to these companies to review all the literature. So I can sit, log in, and I study everything. I know what the literature says. A lot of your doctors know what the pharmaceutical rep says, who just happens to buy them lunch frequently. Now, what the pharmaceutical rep says and what the literature says is different. It's not the same, as you can see. That is a fantastic pill to take 1 or 2 of a day. It's a very high dose curcumin green tea. I take this every day. This shuts off 500 reasons, and you want a real high dose because it doesn't absorb that easily every day. I've been taking that for 10, 15 years, probably 15 years now. Selenium. I'm not going to bother to read all this. Selenium is huge. You need, the amount of selenium you need would be on the head of a pin. And you want it in this form. This supports the tumor regressing gene in your body, the tumor suppressing gene. You can find that in USA. I read vet journals because you should see the cool things you'll find in vet journals. That's in USA Acres. That particular version supports the tumor suppressing gene. Hard to get cancer with that going through your body. In the literature, this is the literature on it. Sounds like a hurricane just stopped in here, doesn't it? With this furnace thing. It's great for viruses and cancer. Now, I had I'm going to mention this little story. I had an EMT tech in here, and he was in here about last Friday. He's a young guy, not 24 years old. I like to talk to my firemen, my policemen, and my EMT techs. You can really find out what's going on. So, okay, he's been 6 months as an EMT around here, and I asked him, how many suicides do you see? And he said, I see 1 a day. First thing was 1 a day. He said, we get 5 a week out of my company. All right. So Friday, he was in, it's a new patient, doing some simple adjusting on a slip disc in his back. I asked him, what's the age group of the youngest? He said, I've had a 6-year-old. I said, you had a 6-year-old? I said, you got to be kidding. You mean you had a 6-year-old? He said, I said, what did he do? He said he drank all the cleaning chemicals and he killed himself. He said, I've had everything between 6 and 18. So today, is there a huge problem with depression and suicide? If you don't see, when I was growing up, I grew up by 6 in Inkster. 5 of my friends' fathers committed suicide. Little subdivision, 6 Mile in Inkster, right there. Going towards the Livonia side. 6 in Inkster, 7 in Middle Belt, right in that little square. And I was only in this little corner because that corner was, the other side was Clarenceville. I grew up on the Livonia side. 5 of my friends. And so my day right now, we're working with all kinds of kids. Parents bring their kids in. Depression, suicidal thoughts, suicidal feelings. I can't tell you how many people have brought their kids in. And I cannot believe walking in, looking at these kids, you're 16, 17, these aren't the best years of your life. I said, go ask your dad what it's like. He's had 3 pay cuts. You all want more expensive stuff. He can't afford it. His boss has told him he's a jerk, and his pension was just blown, and they're going to let him go in 6 months. He wants to kill himself. Not at 16. So we're sitting out in the backyard, me and my son, a few months ago. He was talking about drama class. He graduated from Northville High School. He told me this little story. And remember, these kids have lost it because they missed all the nutrition in the womb. They produce, I did a lecture on this, it's on YouTube. There's a secret history of essential fatty acids. When they got no fats and oils, when they were being developed, they have half the serotonin, they have half the dopamine, they have half the GABA, they have half of everything. Their brains don't fire correctly because they didn't have any essential fatty acids because the doctors were sleeping at the switch like the muscular dystrophy thing. This starts in the womb. If they're nourished properly when you're pregnant, you can fire. And so I went home, I talked to my kids, that we've done this, and I sat them down, I said, are you guys depressed at all? And they laughed at me like I was completely nuts. And I said, absolutely. Dylan said, you remember what your answer was? For 5 minutes once. He said, for 5 minutes once. So these kids, I'm trying to feed these kids brains before they do something stupid, and I got a ton of these kids. I asked my staff, how many kids come in here, don't want to leave the house, they're in the basement, can't focus, can't think, can't concentrate. How many people know somebody like that? It's a mess. Dylan, come on up here. So we were in the backyard. I got a special story for you from my son. He's 21 years old. He just graduated as a pilot in helicopter school. Just got his helicopter license. My other son is 22. He's opening a business in Livonia. I'm going to give him an early plug. It's not open yet. At the old Shooter Service Building at 6 Mile in Middle Belt, very close to where I live. He went to CCS. Derek graduated, at the top, and Dylan's instructor said he was very easy to teach. He said, you were very easy to teach. Everybody, enjoys my children. So we were in the backyard, and Dylan told me a story about drama class at Northville High School. And Mrs. Krill, I was telling him, I said, if you come to the lecture tonight, this Kurt Kindy dude, and you said...
He was my drama teacher.
He was your drama teacher?
Yeah, he's the best.
Now, Mrs. Krill, who now works with her husband, worked in a psychologist's office, correct? Right. And how bad were the kids? Really, it's terrible, isn't it? If you don't work with kids, you don't see what it's like. This is the story Dylan told me about Kurt Kindy at Northville High School.
So I was saying I've never had a more depressed time in my life than... I've never had a more depressed time in my life than the one drama period where my teacher told us all to tell a story in front of the class. The first kid goes up there and he's like, and then I ate the whole bottle of sleeping pills and hoped I died. And I'm just like, what? Okay, next person. I kicked the chair out from under me and the noose broke and I knew that I should live. He tried to hang himself. Every girl had an eating disorder or was talking about one, and probably 80% of the guys and girls in there were all telling stories about depression, suicide, or eating disorders. There was probably 5 of us that told stories that were different from those.
Well, now, how many years? This is 2 years ago, right?
Yeah, this is my senior year. You had not seen a class period like that tell that story, you leave it open, you think someone would say something You know, and I don't know, maybe I'm not the normal one.
There's a good chance you're not.
I think so.
Thank you for coming up here. We're sitting in the backyard. He says, you know, this was the longest hour of my life. And him and Kyle Denny were in the back, and his eyes were like this, listening to these depressed stories. Amazing. Just amazing. And to walk in and look at these kids and they're all over the place. Now I'm awful close. Roundup. I don't know, hairy cell leukemia. I'm not really sure what hairy cell leukemia is, but it sounds pretty nasty, whatever it is. Non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. You got to watch my how many people have seen my autoimmune lecture? That's the one you want to watch on YouTube. It explains why all my friends have cancer or lymphoma. It's real bad right now. It's a mess. That SV40, everybody between 48 and probably 56, 60 has this monkey virus in them. They're finding this in all kinds of tumors, brain tumors. I've had 6 friends with brain tumors. They're dead. Bone cancer. I've buried some kids with bone cancer. Malignant mesothelioma. Non-Hodgkin. I have 2 friends with lymphoma. That's one of the more... Now, I'm going to say something. Chemo and radiation has worked pretty good on the lymphoma patients. It actually works pretty good. It's one of the survivable cancers with medical treatment. Watch my exploding autoimmune lecture. I would encourage that. I had a lady Monday that got, she has advanced rheumatoid arthritis. She's crippled. She's about my age. She's had both hips replaced. She's had her knees replaced. She was a model at one time, and it was from her breast implants. She had ruptured breast implants, and the old ones from 20 years ago destroyed her immune system. So she had some kind of gynecologic procedure. They put her on Cipro, and she came in so crippled up, and it was her hands were completely permanently deformed, and she I want to send her a copy of this slide. You know who it is, Kelly, because I said I'm going to cover this topic at the lecture. Those are the antibiotics that you got to be careful, because now she said I'm permanently crippled, and since it's on the label, I can't sue them for being crippled from that antibiotic because they warned me about it. This is amazing. Her hands were messed up. It's like, oh man, a simple procedure. Now, when you go to the hospital, after they give you a flu shot and a tetanus shot and put you on Lipitor, they're going to give you all these chemicals. So when they give you all these chemicals, they got to give you an acid-blocking medication so it doesn't eat a hole in your stomach. So when you get in the hospital, everybody's on Nexium, Prilosec, right? Everybody knows that. Everybody's been there, they've done that. So when you take a proton pump inhibitor, they increase your risk of that C. diff. Now you don't want to get C. diff, so to have everybody take an acid-blocking medication in the hospital, you're going to give them C. diff. You got to take this or you'll get stomach cancer, but the British Journal of Cancer says a proton pump inhibitor is going to give you stomach cancer. That's why they told you to take it. So the NSAIDs, which are your ibuprofens and stuff, and all your acid blockings are going to open the door. So to open that door for that hospital infection when you get there, it doesn't make any sense. And then in the hospital, there's a huge risk of pneumonia. So the acid-suppressing drugs substantially increase the risk of pneumonia. So if you're there, you might as well get pneumonia while you're pooping yourself silly. Because there's nothing better than coughing, pooping, and having stomach cancer at the same time. That's a big day. It's a hat trick. The New York School of Medicine had to say every single patient that has a heart attack or a stroke is on a beta blocker. So they said after 40 years, they have no protective effect. You'll have just as many heart attacks on it as if you didn't take it. It's a complete failure. That's kind of an interesting stuff. Calcium channel blockers, which a lot of my patients are on. They have increased, you got to take this because if you don't take this to lower your blood pressure, you'll have a heart attack. Well, that kind of heart failure is pretty much saying you're going to have a heart attack. The beta blockers, the calcium channel blockers, and the ACE inhibitors are increased risk for cardiovascular disease. Take a water pill. If you got to do something, take a water pill. A simple diuretic is about the safest way to play this. A diuretic alone, if you got to do something, take a and then talk to people like me to know how to offset it. Because it's not a water pill. You're going to lose your electrolytes, your B vitamins, your minerals, your salt. You're going to lose a ton of things, but you can replace those things if you're paying attention. But the doctors will never tell you what they are because they don't know what they are. Do we have a problem? Do we have a problem today with fat babies? How fat are the kids today? They're huge. They're huge. Well, there's only so many football positions available. So if you give kids antibiotics, you're going to make them fat, and that's why they give it to the animals to make them fat. So I've had 10,000 children in that they can't focus or think. They had some genetically modified Frosted Flakes. They've had a glass of pop and a donut, and it's a big mystery at school why they don't think. That's your breakfast cereal. Start with a little bit of Roundup, a little bit of Agent Orange, and just go for it. Makes perfect sense to me. This is how the people... You don't think our elections could be rigged, do you? See, she doesn't think so. Hey, remember in the year 2000 with the Bush and Gore thing, the hanging chads? They're holding them up to the light. Which way do you think this flap goes? Now, I like to, when I vote at Northville High School, and I got that sappy little person that's helping me guide that ballot into the little computer thing that I think ends up in, somebody's basement. Somebody from Pontiac, Michigan's calling me. So I don't understand this. The people in California voted to hide genetically modified food labels. Does anybody believe that? I cannot believe that Californians would have voted that Proposition 37. I don't believe it. I watched them close precincts. I watched them close. Well, I'm anti-Republican and Democrat. That district in Philadelphia, 57 districts voted 100% for Obama. There wasn't one Romney vote. One? Not even one. How can that? That's impossible. I'm watching the Tennessee state closes. It's 8 minutes and 1 second. They say, well, Obama won. He just closed the door. He didn't even count anything. And I'm not Romney was a train wreck. Obama was a train wreck. We had 2 train wrecks. You pick your train wreck and just get on and see which direction we're going to go. But I have trouble buying that Proposition 37 was voted like it was. I just have trouble with that vote. Hard to believe. If you stop the dirty dozen, you can cut your pesticides 90%. I put that up at other lectures. The EPA says 60% of your herbicides, 90% of fungicides, and 30% of insecticides are... I have patients so sick on these fruits, so sick with their stomachs. All kinds of people sick to their stomach. Has anybody ever watched Hacking Democracy? It's an HBO show. Anybody ever watched this? See, none of you have watched this. I told Lou at the office, I said, Lou, you got to watch Hacking Democracy. It's on YouTube. He came in, and he was so fired up after watching it. Lou, how bad was that? It's unbelievable. How you can hack a lady like any one of you went to question the votes in her neighborhood. And she went, it's an HBO special, this is no conspiracy thing. What she did, you will not believe watching. It's on YouTube, Hacking Democracy. Lou came in and he was shocked. I'm shocked at what I just saw. Yes. I don't even want to tell you how it goes. Just watch it. It's worth it. Number 2, for all you folks out there, after the Second Amendment, everybody knows what the Second, if you should know what the Second Amendment is, because that's what's in this crosshairs now. After the Second Amendment, there's only one left that they haven't messed with. It's the First Amendment. When the First Amendment gets monkeyed with, this is going to be the line in the sand that the Christians that are paying attention are going to have to be wise. And everybody, how many people know Lou in front of my office? Lou has, if anybody wants to know more about when the First Amendment gets trampled on, talk to Lou. He's got something for you, and it's worth the read. A great series to watch, which will help you navigate these next few years. All our stuff's on YouTube. Let's call me from Pontiac. Our website. You got all your presents up here. I want to thank Standard Process and Biotics, Derek Weber, and Millennium for the prizes, which there'll be more at the next lecture. We got so many, we divided them up so more people could win. Make sure I covered all these things up here. And I'm going to let them disperse the prizes. Everybody wants to know if you're a winner, right? What I take pretty much every day. I'm out of here, and I will see you. Thank you.